Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dream Team web series. I would like to welcome an amazing speaker that we have here today. Her name is Yael Zofi, who is a global business consultant who has transformed modern workplaces for over 25 years. Wow. I'm so glad to have her expertise here on board to just help us work through cross-cultural communications and virtual team management. And I would like to thank Yael for being here and being part of the masterclass and serving the community of entrepreneurs who have the desire to be successful. Hi.
Hello, everybody.
So is there anything you would like to just share about yourself before we dig deep into virtual teams?
So I'm only 25, no, but I've been in this field for a very long time. I started to dabble in the world of virtual teams when everybody was just focused on, Y2K and how the world will change and the clock will tick and everything will change. And indeed it did. I was actually, before that, involved with a lot of global leadership work in Brazil and in Asia, in expansion and market trends. And I sort of observed the transition of globalization and technology, which enabled virtual teams. And my passion is to bring human connection into the workplace and make sure it's still there, whether you're remote, whether you're local, global, we're all globally local. So I just love helping teams become more effective and working with them wherever their starting point is to help them build the skills, the capabilities, the knowledge of working together, even though they're physically apart, just like we are right now.
Amazing. And I love that. And it's just the magic of a support team is just crucial. I think when you're starting a business, it's the make it or break it kind of point that you get into creating your business. So when do you think is the right time for an entrepreneur to start a support team?
So support team is kind of sounds interesting. I think I call it more like an advisory team. Okay. And I think it's important for any entrepreneur to have an advisory team because you just can't do it all by yourself and you can't effectively be good at everything. I mean, you hire a lawyer to help you with the legal, you hire an accountant to help you with the accounting, you may hire a marketing expert to help you with social media and marketing strategy, and you hire a people strategist like me to help you think about your team, your clients, your vendors, your colleagues. The other thing I think is really important in this day and age of how we're all working in all kinds of relationships and in all kinds of places and communities is to make sure that that entrepreneur taps into different people's wisdom and takes from it what works for them to build their own business. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I've had AIM Strategies. This year is now 20 years old.
Wow.
And it's gone through its ups and downs and changes. And I think at every point of running a business effectively, you're always looking for thought leadership, for new ways of doing things, stay one step ahead of the competition, figure out how you want your team to help you. So nowadays, my personal support team sometimes includes colleagues, sometimes includes past clients who've become friends, and more, it actually includes people who are, and on purpose for me at this point, different than me. Yeah. I don't need somebody to help support me with things that I know how to do. I want somebody who thinks completely differently than I do or comes from a different type of business environment to the point of a business, different kind of business. Okay. One of my astute supporters, or I guess I call him an advisor, he's in real estate. It has nothing to do with people management, leadership. He's in real estate. So he helps me think about the selling side of the business. So it's always good to keep your mind sharp and to tap into other people's wisdom. And the more different they are from you, the better, I think.
Oh, of course. And I think it also diversifies your business as well as you start to have all these different components in there. As they start to branch out, what do you think? I know that you stated like the benefits of actually having a support team. I think it's hard for people to grasp the fact of having them being face to face, actually there physically versus actually just having people from a distance and helping them you manage your business? How does that work?
So first of all, it's hard for entrepreneurs to let go, and it's hard for entrepreneurs to not, not want, or the natural desire of human beings, especially when it's your own business, your own baby, is to do it yourself. Now, when you rely on other people, particularly a team, and then they're not in person, so you don't know, you know what they look like, or you may be able to email, but you don't know exactly if their focus is on you. It's really important to it's harder to delegate. However, before you delegate, you really need to identify what kind of team you want to have. You want to do a process I call team setup. Set up your team. Do they have the right skill sets, capabilities? What are all that stuff that you want to figure out? And then how do you communicate? So how do we communicate? When do we communicate? What's really important? When should we, to the point of, when I work with teams, particularly when I work with businesses to help them set up a virtual team, the focus is creating our team code for how we want to communicate. How do we handle trust and accountability? How do we handle misunderstanding, which sometimes happens to become a conflict, but it could be a misunderstanding. I sent you an email, I don't hear back, and now there might be an email war. How do we handle those and nip them so that we can overcome them? And at the end of the day, it's really the 4 pillars of virtual teams. Context communication, right? Creating context to understand and communicate. Yeah. Trust and accountability, working together, even if we're physically apart, to build trust and accountability. Handling conflict and misunderstanding. And the 4th is getting deliverables out the door.
And so how do you feel like, how do you go about managing that? Does it reflect back to your managing style, how you feel comfortable? How does that work, and how does that execute?
Well, every business entrepreneur, the business is very much your style, because you put so much of your passion and who you are. I always call my business, I've had my business for 20 years. I also have 2 daughters now, but I always say this: the business was always and is my baby. It's been my firstborn. It was always my baby. My family knows that. They may not like it, but so it is kind of like your baby, but it's very much how the person is, and knowing. And the really important thing for an entrepreneur is to know your strengths and also your shortcomings, and then fill in the gap of the things that maybe you're not as effective by utilizing technology, utilizing resources that may have that tool set, utilizing knowledge experts that maybe they come in and help for a short period of time and go away. But at the end of the day, you own it. It's yours. That's why you're a business owner. Now, how do you set up that kind of virtual team? It really starts with setting up a team. Some of the key principles of having a team in any setting, virtual or not, it starts with purpose. So what's our purpose? Why are we here? And expect that, especially if you're going to work with, and most of the time as a small business owner, you work with people who are remote, people who might speak different languages, people who are in different time zones, people that have other projects, they're freelancers, so you might not be their first priority, they've got other priorities. And so you're going to work with a variety of different people. But look at the advantage of that. The advantage of that is you can tap into talent anywhere, anytime. So what's really, really important for working this way is setting up the expectations. So purpose, then expectations of how we work together. And if you have an ongoing team, then I recommend that I facilitate a team code session, coming up with our code of how we work together. Mm-hmm. If it's not an ongoing team and it's individuals working on your team, then you, the owner, the entrepreneur, you're the agent of connection. Now, the concept is a concept, I smile as I talk about it, because I came up with this concept around 1990 something, and I don't even want to say when, because some of the listeners out there, you're in diapers, okay? And I presented at a conference in Puerto Rico. It was actually 1997 or something like that. All right, so now I'm dating myself, but I'm 25. So I was presenting at a conference in Puerto Rico, and the conference was on global leadership. Right now, think about it. The time frame, the late '90s. You know, the world was just getting into that. Everybody called it international at that point. There was global and international. And you're going overseas. So anyway, I was in Puerto Rico. I was at this conference, and I made a statement that was a bit provocative. I said, you know what? Everybody talks about change management and managing change, but the truth is, we're not agents of change. You're not agents of change. You're agents of connection. And let me explain what I mean by that. Change is going to happen no matter what, but how do you connect the human factor in a workplace when you have people starting to work all over in all kinds of different settings? Now, again, we're talking about like 20 years ago, maybe more. Yeah. Oh my God. 25. So I nearly had tomatoes thrown in my face. They were so angry in that room. What do you mean? It's not agent of connection. It's change. It's change management. We're agents of change. I'm like, no, you'll see. The future is coming, and you're going to have to build human connection. And I don't want to say I predicted it, but it's such a change, because when I go into doing a speaking engagement or walk into a conference and run a session, everybody's like, heck yeah. Of course we're agents of connection. We have to, and as a leader, and especially as an entrepreneur, where you're the core. You hold the values. You hold the concept of the setting up the business, and much of it is based on your own leadership. So it's you leading by example. You're the agent of connection, in sense, trying to connect your teammates to each other and to you, so that you can produce and be the most successful you can be for your clients, regardless of time, space, or technology.
Oh, wow.
The little sci-fi was sci-fi back then, but now it's like, here we are, now what?
Now it's just our reality, huh?
Actually, one of my most popular workshops was called Bringing Reality to Your Virtual Teams.
Oh, wow. What was that? What did that entail?
It starts with a video of teams then and now, where people look at we've always worked in teams. Right? How do people get things done? We've always worked in teams. The concept is not a new concept of teams. The core of teams is, we work in teams. We have football teams or any kind of sport teams. We have family teams. There's always the human nature is to congregate in a team setting or a team community kind of structure. So it's teams then and now, and it shows all kinds of video snippets of teams doing stuff. And then now it shows, teams using technology like we are right this minute. It's teams working together even though they're physically apart. It's teams working on utilizing tools that enable us to have the real-time information on how to get things done. And this is happening and has been happening in all industries.
Yeah.
All. So the medical field, the biotech, the technology. It's not just technology, because technology have been early adopters. In fact, I've been more recently working with manufacturing companies that are trying to catch up. But my favorite clients are the growing type of businesses that are looking to scale, that have grown just enough to now think about not just our own core team, but how do we run multiple teams?
Yeah.
How do we manage ourselves to be some more successful? I'll tell you a quick story, and I know you're going to another question. So today, I had a virtual coaching session. I do a lot of virtual coaching, and the person was mentioning a local pizza shop. The owner is an entrepreneur. Her and a couple of her friends really loved pizza in college, and came up with a really good recipe, and started a restaurant, pizza place in Brooklyn, which is where I'm based, on the other side of Brooklyn, the kind of hipster side of, the Brooklyn used to be kind of dangerous. Now it's the cool place to be. Overnight success. They now have 3 pizza shops, and she's an entrepreneur, and she took a concept and a passion, cooking and liking to eat pizza, and is doing very well. And her challenge now is growing the business, not just setting up the business. It's the next stage. How do we grow the business? And there are already 3 shops in, and looks like it's going to grow still. And so what she does, and I commended her on it because I think that's forward thinking. That's agent of connection kind of thinking. She takes her team of about 10, 12 people. They go upstate to Woodstock for 3 days, renting like one of these inns for the weekend. And they come there and have sessions together about better understanding their leadership style, spending time. And during the day, they have educational and thinking and strategizing, and they bring in an external facilitator so they get that external perspective. And then in the evenings, it's about dinner and interacting with each other. And the team is very, very strong and very, very connected, and they're communicating more effectively. And even though they got 3 different shops, and essentially it is a virtual team, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be on the other side of the world to be a virtual team.
Exactly.
Right? In fact, in my work, in my book, the definition of a virtual team is across the street or across the world. It's a team whose members simultaneously work together while physically apart. So that definition could be you and me right now. It could be a colleague on the other side of Manhattan, which could take about an hour and a half to get to anyway. It could be on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter. It's still virtual. So I commend her for that, because I thought that's forward thinking. That's saying, I value my team. I'm investing in my team and in their leadership and management. And through doing that, they enable the team to become a more effective team. They work together. They get through the hard times because they've had the connection.
It's a great way to build trust, to be honest. You're
Absolutely.
building that human connection where they can actually start building an actual connection with one another in order to build trust and have that accountability at the end, that they know, I trust this person, I know this will get done. And that's a really great way to really create that. I love that idea.
It's a very simple idea, but she's forward thinking in that way, and I'm not surprised why overnight success and now 3 pizza shops, because pizza as a product is something we're all familiar with. She took the concept, and her team is working really strong and hard, and they love it.
Yeah.
And it's going to lead to trust. It's going to lead to retention, better talent management of her team as they grow, and they're obviously on the growth route.
No, and I think when you're thinking creatively, you have to do that when you have teams that aren't necessarily in a traditional work environment, and you have to think of ways to legitimately have that human connection, make sure that you're building trust, you're building security, you're actually building people morality within your organization. And that's crucial if you're going to be successful, and you're going to have good retention and just people just really focused on the business.
Right. And that's the thing. As an entrepreneur, it's very easy to fall into the trying to do it all yourself, trying to get into the middle of it, trying to do all the details. And once in a while, it's good to step back and say, what am I doing to help create, not create the support team, but enable the support team to support each other and support me, so that I can step back, so I can have some time to reflect. I can have some time to think of the next phase of the business, to potentially interact with other smart business owners, to learn from their experience. The one thing I would say as an entrepreneur myself all these years, I'm a learner. As well as I do consulting, and I teach virtual teams. I teach at the university level. I traveled around the world. I speak at conferences. I do one-on-one coaching, all that stuff. At the end of the day, I'm a learner of people and team dynamics and leadership, and it's never boring. And I think as an entrepreneur, you're always seeking the next level, you're always a learner. You're in that mode of, and if you're not, you'll be out of business, because technology will come and take over, or somebody else will come and take your concept, as beautiful as it is, and make it cheaper, faster, better. So it's really important to stay in front of the game, and especially when you meet good people, find ways to enable those people to work together with you, whether they're physically there or apart. And it is a best practice if you can once a year to get together in person if you can. And if you can't, the second best practice is what we're doing right now. I call it VIP. If you can't be there in person, be virtually in person.
Exactly. And so what advice would you give for people to communicate effectively? I know a lot of it is to make time and to sit here and actually do this like one-on-one, but what actual advice? Because I feel like part of the problems, that's especially of someone who's starting as an entrepreneur and just starting to create a team and starting to manage, is effectively and clearly communicating their needs so that they actually get the results that they need.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of things. I mentioned setting up your team properly because one of the key components of team setup is focusing on context communication. How often should we communicate? When do we communicate? What do we do if you're on vacation? What do we do if I'm away in business? How do we have creating the structure? And what's really tough for entrepreneurs is to have a structure, because the whole point they become an entrepreneur is because they want to break the mold or be different or not have any structure, but having some formation. I almost call it like, you need to have the framework so you can paint the picture and be creative in painting the picture, but you got to create the frame. So the framework around communication is your guidelines, your team codes for how you communicate, your technology choices for communication are very important. So for example, what I do sometimes when I train on communication, on context communication, I break it down and have, and I would recommend you could do this, break down your communication into written, voice, and virtual in person. So what are your choices in terms of written? Again, we're most familiar with email, but there are other written choices. What are your choices on voice? And what are your choices on virtual in person? Is it Zoom? Is it Skype? Is it WebEx? Is it a variety of other things? And realize, as we know, that technology will change over time and you'll need to adapt. But essentially, no matter what technology you are using, there will be written choices, there'll be voice, and there'll be VIP, virtual in person. And it's not that they're good or bad, although one of the exercises I do and I recommend to people to do is do the pros and cons of each of your technology choices and figure out when is it more appropriate to use one versus the other. And whenever you're using two, you're actually increasing the probability of understanding. So let me give you an example. Email is 7% effective. That sounds awful.
That does sound awful.
It's 7% effective because it's a one-way communication, right? I send an email. I don't know how you read it. You're reading it laughing, crying, screaming. I tend to be, my style is very direct, and sometimes people misunderstand that because I just like to know, what am I dealing with? How long? Where do I need to be? What do I need to do? I'm a really busy person.
You're like to the point. You're a true New Yorker.
I've become a New Yorker from that perspective, although I slow down when I travel around parts of the country and when I'm dealing with certain individuals. But so written is 7% effective, but its use is like 90-something%. So we use email most of the time because it's easy, but it's a one-way communication. Then I got to wait till you communicate back. Voice is 38% effective. And we're more familiar with the phone. The phone has been around. We pick up the phone.
We're attached to our cell phones.
Right. Everybody has that. So you hardly use the phone anyway, the regular phone. Everybody's got one of these. Can't live without them. They're almost at my hip.
Like, legitimately, like they're just part of your arm or your hand.
I know. Well, they say in the future it'll be right here. So
right.
Scary thought, but it's coming. So that's 38% effective. But if you take, and then VIP, virtual in person, is 55% effective. So if you take, and then you choose, these are your communication mechanisms, do the pros and cons, and then choose your consistency. Stay consistent. If you're going to go Zoom, stay with Zoom. If you're going to go Skype, stay with Skype or Skype for Business. Don't swap and change technology because you still need to train yourself and your people about all the little knickknacks that all these technologies have, and they got to compete with each other, so they're constantly changing. And then think about what kind of communication needs to happen. And sometimes email is all you need. It's informational. I'm sending information, done. Or texting you, finished. Sometimes, a good rule of thumb is when in doubt, pick up the phone. And I got that from a client, actually. He said to me, when it starts to communicate, starts to go back and forth 3 times, boom, when it's doubt, pick up the phone. Or pick up the phone and nip it.
I agree. Because even the texting or messaging, it could get to the point where it's just like, let's just talk about this. It would take 2 minutes to discuss while we're here 30 minutes chatting about.
Right. So I agree with that. But again, I got that advice from a client. And then the VIP, because it's 55% effective. So that, combining it with a phone, now you're in the higher 80s. Mm-hmm. So, but when do you need to use that? Maybe when we need a decision. Maybe when we need to involve others and get commitment. Maybe when I need to see your face and I need to see that you're going like this and you understand me, or you're confused and you don't like me, and it's okay. It's information, and it helps us to build a relationship. And at the end of the day, human beings are about this. We're about human connection.
We're so visual, and yeah.
Even if you and I never meet, we made a human connection right now. And now when I'll get your text or your email, I know what you look like. I know what your couch look like, and the beautiful visual you have there. And there's a window on the side, and you can see how messy my office looks like. I'm too busy. But the thing is, we created a human connection, and there's nothing that can replace that, because at the end of the day, human beings are social animals. Now, understanding that as a business owner, and when you're working with a variety of different people that are probably freelancers themselves, actually one of the biggest complaints I hear from a lot of freelancers and business owners is feeling disconnected, or not feeling part of something bigger, or missing that camaraderie. And that's why all the WeWork and all those office spaces that are shared, and that's taking off like hotcakes, because people need interactions. Human beings like connection. We're natural animals that like interacting with other beings. Staying alone after a while is sad. Which
is why we're attracted to being in groups, and it feels isolating when you're not. So so when you look at it from a psychological perspective, it makes complete sense.
And from a business perspective, you cannot do anything by yourself anymore. No. I used to start my Bringing Reality to Your Virtual Teams workshop with this question. How many of you work in virtual teams? And in the early years, there'd be a couple of hands up, and the rest would be like laughing, like, virtual, ha, what does that mean? And then I was like, okay, I want you to keep your hand up. I'm going to keep asking your question. Just keep it up. So how many of you work in virtual? 3 or 4 people. Okay, how many of you go to buy your books on Amazon? A couple more hands would go up. How many of you buy some of your supplies from a supplier outside your state and go online? How many of you do stuff on eBay? By the time I was up to the 4th question, everybody raised their hand. And I'm looking around the room. You're all working virtual teams, whether you want to or not. It's here. It's here to stay. It's growing. And you can't work by yourself. You can't be alone. You wouldn't survive alone in this world anymore.
No one. So what would be the number one advice you would give to every entrepreneur building a business to execute their vision?
From a team perspective, I would say to them, think about, sort of make a list of your things you need to do, make a list of your wish list, think about the skill sets and capabilities you need, and build a team around you that helps to support you where your gaps are. And it's not because you're not smart, we're all smart, but some of us are big picture thinkers, and we need a team of individuals to implement. Some of us are detail oriented, and we need a team of people to help us to market that product or software or service that we're just really good at, but we're in the weeds and we need to get out. And so build a team around you. If you're going to use the word support team, that supports you, because together we win the game. The leader can't win the game by themselves. Maybe you're carrying the ball, and you ultimately make the goal, but together we have to do it together. And if you're building a virtual team, you know, if we're physically apart, and I know time is a little short, you want to consider the capabilities, the skills, the styles, and integrate your team and build the human connection into your interactions, whether they're written, voice, virtual, in person.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So today, just for listening and being part of this masterclass, Yael is offering everyone a free 15-minute session. Yael, would you like to describe and detail out what that looks like, and then actually go on and speak more about your business and actually all the books that you've written?
Okay, so the 15-minute session is a coaching session. It's for you. You sign up through the link on my website, which I know
will be on our page when you link on the video. So all the information will be there as well.
Okay, awesome. And essentially, it's your time with me as an expert coach in virtual team management. You can describe your quick situation when you sign up, and then we can use whatever technology you're comfortable with, written voice or virtual person. I would recommend voice or VIP. So sometimes it's phone alone, sometimes phone video. And it's your time, your free time to kind of spend with me, and I can give you some directions and advice and suggestions to help you get through where you are. In terms of my background and expertise, so I've written 5 business books. They're all sold on Amazon if you want to look at them, but the better place to go, I think, is my own website, which is my name.com, yaelzofi.com. And the first 3 books were sort of very, very thin books about managing relationships, work your network, and communicating through global lenses, about managing cross-cultural interactions, cross-cultural communications. And then more lately, it's been about virtual teams. This is my biggest seller book. It's called The Manager's Guide to Virtual Teams. And a lot of it's written in a very, quick, easy. It's almost like it's truly a guide, trying to be, with lists and bullets. Actually, my publisher even made it more like that. And then there's a companion guide called the Virtual Teams Activity Guide, all kinds of activities for you and your virtual teams to do, so that you can build that trust, so you can build that team charter, team code of how you want to work together. So if you don't have me or don't want me there and you want to try to do it yourself, you get this in the companion book, and I can even guide you to where you might want to go with those 2 to really do it yourself type of thing. But I just love this topic. I think there's so much more we can do with this. I think this world is exciting and interesting, and keeping that human connection, or bringing in the human connection into every interaction you have, will also help you grow your business.
Oh, of course. And
your clients are looking for it too.
Yeah, we're such a global economy, and virtual teams and working virtually is just going to be the epitome. To be honest, I just don't even think the traditional workspace is going to be in existence much longer. I think we're all going to be remote, virtual, figuring out a way to actually work this way, but also keep the connection, and also be creative and do retreats, or figure out a way to make the business feel like a business from a distance. So I just want to thank you. I will have all of the books listed on the page with the video, and also in our tools and resources portion of the masterclass. So thank you, Yael, and please, for more information, visit her website at yaelzofi.com. That will also be in the page. You are the only one who could create your vision to be successful. So why not start and do that today? Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.